We let our joy shine. When we let our love shine.
We let it shine.
And we let our peace shine.
We let it shine.
And we let our hope shine.
We let our joy.
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 We let our joy shine. We let it shine.
Wow, beautiful ladies. You are certainly shining tonight, and welcome. We are so glad to be with you this evening in this virtual Christmas Eve service. It's been a radical year, to say the least. So many changes that we've had to navigate as a result of the pandemic, the tension from racial inequity, the uncertainty of our economy, loss of jobs, as well as being quarantined and having life as we knew it be just changed dramatically and unexpectedly. We found ourselves in really strange times this year. We've offered small groups this year on Radical Compassion in the spring by Tara Brock and Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping in the fall. And we've seen some radical changes in the consciousness of those who participated in these groups. We saw many people have tremendous change for the good in their lives. And when we can surrender to Spirit, this is what it's all about. This is what transformation is all about. Letting ourselves surrender and trusting. Doing that work on our own reactivity. Through the tough times, through these times that we've had in 2020, and allow our lives to flow in new ways. It's not easy work, very challenging, but it's rewarding when there is a birth of a new awareness of our own divine nature, of our Christ nature. And that's Christmas, the birth of a new awareness of our Christ nature. It takes some work to get there, as we'll see in this first video we want to share with you. so it can feel like a heavy weight we're trying to lift, as that man in the video. But when we stay focused on our vision, see how the work gets easier. Taking little steps, one step at a time. And the same can be said of spiritual work when we're developing our faith. We'll be showing you 6 videos of people from our community that have done the work, that have done the heavy lifting, who have seen tremendous change in their lives, radical shift in consciousness. And as a result, they feel more free, more joyful, more peace, and more open to all the love around them. They had a radical birth of a new awareness of their Christ nature, which is what Christmas is about, which is what Columbine is all about. Here's the first video by Stephanie Bennett.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. 2020 is the year that I really committed to doing the work. And with the tools that Columbine has provided me, I've experienced amazing transformation. It started with Prosperity Plus, and what I learned there is to believe in infinite possibilities, to take steps, and to leave no stone unturned. In the spring, I joined a small group and we studied radical compassion. And although it wasn't easy, and I'm still not really good at it, I've learned to really feel my feelings as opposed to fear them. In the fall, I joined another small group and we studied radical forgiveness. And what I learned there is a whole new way to view my relationships. Ultimately, I've transformed the love and compassion I feel for myself, my relationships, my future, and my present moment. And I couldn't be more grateful. Blessings to you all.
Richard Rohr, a modern-day mystic, said to bring Christ into the world involves an ongoing commitment to growth, to discomfort, to love, to surrender. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is God's invitation to all of us. You could hear Stephanie's commitment when she said, "This is the year I commit to doing the work." And to support her in that commitment, she participated in every one of the programs that Sue talked about earlier. She participated in in our spring and our fall programs. She did all the work that we offered. As you'll be reminded tonight, the characters and their individual stories in the story of the birth of the Christ, the birth of Jesus the Christ, are very inspiring to us. But so often when we're given our own opportunity to birth the Christ, we don't recognize that we're in the same stories. They're intense for us because we're being invited out of our comfort zone. Often we feel alone and separate. It speaks to how important it is to us to participate in our own spiritual work and the support of our practices and the support of programs and teachings that are offered. They help us to navigate. They provide us with tools, and they orient us to the Spirit and how the Spirit unfolds in our lives. It helps us to be open to whatever's unfolding and however intense it is. This openness, like for Stephanie, she talked about how Prosperity Plus, what did she say? Renewed her belief in possibility. You know, the spiritual path is all about unleashing our potential. And whenever I hear of someone opening to the possibility, freeing their potential, it reminds me of Jesus' mother Mary and her interaction with Gabriel. Do you remember that Gabriel came to her And he told her that she was going to have a baby boy and that he was going to have great impact on humankind. Now, initially, Mary was a little doubtful. She said, I am a virgin. But he went on to tell her that nothing is impossible with God. And to that, Mary simply replied, "Here I am. Let it be with me according to your word." You can sense her openness, her receptivity. How is life inviting you to unleash your potential? And are you feeling prepared? If not, then consider joining us in our programming and in our spiritual teaching. This pandemic has deprived us of many things. So it's with great excitement tonight that I want to introduce you to our choir. If you can imagine, we have almost 40 members in our choir. And as you're going to see, they very creatively recorded their parts separately. But tonight, you get to experience them as one.
Wow, beautiful. Everyone that participated in that choir had to step out of their comfort zone, had to do something that maybe they didn't really want to do. They wanted to be part of the choir, but it's not easy doing this spiritual work. Just like each of those that recorded a video for us. Let's gather around all those souls who have bravely stepped forward, took that step in faith to share with us tonight, to display beautifully this Christmas story that is all of our stories, because we've all navigated challenging times, dark times. Join me in prayer. I invite you to take a deep breath. Gently close your eyes wherever you are, unless you're driving. Just allow yourself to pause for a moment. We come to that place of knowing, sweet Spirit, that place deep within us, that place that knows that we are spiritual beings. That place that knows that 2020, with all its challenges, with all its seeming darkness, has also provided us with opportunities for growth and opportunities for evolving and opportunities to transform and transcend the darkness. When we can come to that place within and know that, be awake to that, knowing no matter what's going on in our lives, we can be free. We can feel peace. We can feel hope. We can feel joy. And we can develop our faith as we step forward on whatever we're guided to do. 2020 has been challenging for so many reasons. And we don't want to just let it go. We want to appreciate the challenges it brought us. And so, sweet Spirit, we call forth whatever needs to be revealed and needs to be healed. And we take that knowing, we take those things that we're calling forth and bring them into the new year. Do our work. Be a light to many, because many are in the darkness. We thank you, God, for these opportunities, for this light that shines bright in us, and for all the time that we stay awake to that light. And so it is. Amen. Our next video is Dana Lamb.
I'm Dana Lamb, and I'm grateful for the Radical Forgiveness program that I was able to participate in this fall. I've had a lot of changes that happened in my life this year, and in November, I bought a new home. And shortly after that, the Friday before Thanksgiving, I got a call from my employer in the evening that told me today was my last day. Now, I had lots of the same old feelings that I used to have. I was angry, frustrated, and feeling how I could possibly get revenge and take things out on all the people that were involved. Then I quickly turned to my victim role and turned everything towards myself. I felt helpless and I wanted to crawl inside, and I felt like embarrassed and humiliated, and everything was my fault. But then something inside of me was able to overcome that, and I think that it was from the Radical Forgiveness program. I was able to see that perhaps this was a divine intervention. I actually really hated that job, and it was something that perhaps God was doing for me that I couldn't do for myself. I remember that my friend Rachel and I did vision boards earlier in this year, way back before COVID, and one of the things that I put on the board was that I wanted a better job in doing something more along the lines of sustainability. That's not something that I was doing. So hopefully this will give me the opportunity to do something new on my path and do something that I love. I'm grateful again for the opportunity to do the Radical Forgiveness program and to be at Columbine. Thank you.
Dana's story so reminds me of the journey that Joseph and Mary were called into. Things are going pretty well for them. Well, you know, they start out with a bit of an upset when Mary returns back to Joseph pregnant. That brought up some concern, but the angels helped take care of all of that. And by this point, they'd had several months together. Maybe they were even married. We don't know. But certainly the pregnancy was going well when all of a sudden the apple cart gets upset, and they are ordered to go to Bethlehem to participate in the census, to participate in the count. it can feel like our whole life is being turned upside down, especially when that happens in a very vulnerable time, like in Mary's pregnancy, or in Dana's case, just as she had bought a new home and committed to a mortgage, to find out that she was being let go by her employer. The sense is as if the innkeeper is slamming the door in your face. But what we have found out this year is that if we can just stay with it, this whole year has been about adapting and allowing our light to shine in the midst of the seeming darkness. If we can stay with it, that untold things can begin to happen, new awarenesses, new opportunities, the birth of something new. I love the way that today's Daily Word put it. I carry this story with me as a reminder that when my plans go awry, I can demonstrate the faith to follow an unfamiliar route, and the peace to trust the divine within me, and the love to know I am never alone. You can hear that faith, peace, and love blossoming in Dana as she traverses this unfamiliar path.
But let's talk about Mary a little more.
All right.
Mothers, can you imagine traveling on a donkey while in labor? I can't. It's a journey we all take, though, when we commit to the spiritual path. Just as there's pain and discomfort, if you want to call it, in childbirth, we surrender our bodies to the process, and when we breathe through it, we birth new life. Just as in a spiritual path, we have to breathe through it. We have to surrender our minds to the ways of spirit. Stop the victim consciousness. Bring forth new life. Then we can experience a new way of being, a greater joy than we thought possible. We know with faith all things are possible, as Augustus Piazza experienced, and he talks about in this next video.
2020, like many people, it's been such a challenging year to say the least. For me personally, there's so much stress and anxiety surrounding the uncertainty of my job, a place where I'd worked for 12 years. Back in April, many of my colleagues within the hospitality industry, they had become some of the initial employment casualties of the travel lockdown. And although I had survived the first phase, I knew it was just a matter of time before I'd be added to that list. So my response to the situation, well, it was one of proactiveness and reactiveness, but both were fueled by the same mental logic. I was determined to prove myself again, even after all these years. So 40, 50-hour work weeks became 60-hour work weeks. Even vacation days were no longer days off. They were just days where I responded to fewer emails. And even though I hadn't been really happy at my job for several years, it was what I knew. And especially during a pandemic, I knew as long as I could keep my job, everything would be okay. The unknown was just too much for me to handle. Then, one Sunday afternoon in October, it all came crashing down. After another long day of just trying to keep everything together and everything ultimately falling apart, I just lost it. I wound up on the floor of my living room, roaring like a lion. A scared, angry lion. And after that experience, I knew I just couldn't continue as is. As time went on, I continued at my job, but there was this sense of lightness. I just felt like, okay, I wasn't going to control it anymore. And then the following Sunday, I watched Sue's talk about faith. And she talked about the difference between belief and faith, and how faith was all about openness and trust. And I know Scott and Sue, they talk about openness and trust all the time. But for the first time, I could really feel what they were describing. I could feel this sense of hope, this sense of what the possibilities could be A few days later, my company went through another round of layoffs, and unfortunately, I did not make the cut. But my response was much different than I expected. I was so happy. I laughed, I cheered, and I felt like I had tears of joy. I had so much gratitude around everything I had accomplished, but more importantly, I had this feeling of hope, of openness, of what the possibilities could be if I just wasn't trying to control the situation. Since then, things have progressed, and I've tried to keep really open, really positive, and it's been an amazing transformation for me. Especially from a career perspective, all of these opportunities keep coming my way. People have reached out that I haven't heard from in years. Opportunities have presented themselves that I never even thought were possible. This has been an amazing year, and it's been my radical year.
In this video, Augustus takes us on a journey that is so true to life. The fear that arises with the unknown, the way that we're always trying to prove our value and trying to control the outcome of our lives. And through it all, something begins to emerge as Augustus, something that I might call shepherd consciousness. You know, what do shepherds do? They tend to their sheep. And metaphysically, sheep represent that chatter of ideas in our mind. And they are closely related to our deep-seated beliefs and to the then patterns of living that we adapt, again, to try and feel safe, trying to control our life. But if you look at the nature of a shepherd's life, they live often a solitary, quiet life out in nature, a life that is filled with that stillness and quiet that allows them to develop a quality of witnessing or observing. Instead of getting pulled into the issues of their flock or getting pulled into the issues of life, they're able to see clearly, to be open. And in that still mind, they're open to the purity of the guidance that's provided by the angel. In Augustus's case, the angel, quite surprising, was a person from HR that came to him to invite him to leave his sheep, to leave his seeming means of support in order to go and find the Christ child, his untapped potential. And as that observer, he was able to accept the invitation. And not accept it out of fear, not accept it out of, well, I'm a good spiritual person, this is what I'm to do. No, he was able to say yes from a place of peace and joy.
Peace on earth and mercy mild, God
I recently read an article about angels in the book Mary Magdalene Revealed by Megan Watterson. She says, "An angel is simply a thought that lifts us up from out of ourselves, from out of those cages the ego would prefer for us to remain within. Angels are the thoughts, the memory, the sensation of love. They are whatever comes and shifts us from being lost within ourselves to seeing again, not with the ego, but the eye of the heart." I love that quote. You know, rather than messages from an outside God, which we sometimes think of angels, they're really the inner thoughts that invite us to live more fully, more joyfully, more abundantly. And when we're nudged by those thoughts, those inner thoughts, and take action on them, we open ourselves to greater possibilities for our lives, just as Constance Roth did in this next video.
Hi, my name is Constance, and I'm happy to say I am a member of this community and have been for about 1.5 years since I stopped working for state parks. I worked on weekends, so was never able to attend any of the services, but as I started, I was also privy to some of the groups that this community has offered. The first one being the Prosperity Workshop. That was absolutely amazing because I have in the past manifested things in my life, and this was such an amazing reinforcing program that I feel even more connected to spirit, and how I'm led is just startling. The other program was the recent book club, Radical Forgiveness. Now, I'm not a book club person. I have never joined a book club because I just don't want to read on command. And this book has come to me 3 different times. And because I made a promise to myself never to overlook something that came more than twice, I had to look at this and joined the book club. And the first chapter of the book just blew me out of the water. It was my story. I cried for days. It was so transforming. The second part of it was doing work around my mom. It has taken me years and years and years to try and figure this out, how to do it. And I've had opportunities, but I just couldn't move forward. And thanks to Rachel, who I asked to help me, I was able to complete the worksheet that was with the book and actually do the work around my mom and forgive her. Let me say that this was probably the most transforming thing that has happened in my life, and I am so grateful to this community, to Columbine, for offering these opportunities to us to heal. I am really blessed to be here and wish everyone a very happy holiday.
In Constance's powerful story of forgiveness, you can hear the nudging of the angels on her soul. Have you had that experience of a book coming to you multiple times, or the invitation to a workshop, or anything that is just tapping on you to make a change, to grow in some way? And yet, how many times with that nudging have we not exactly known how to make the change, how to initiate the growth? This again draws attention to the power of spiritual study and spiritual practice. If you think about it, it's like a star. That when we're willing to allow ourselves to be impacted by the tools that result from our spiritual work, they illumine the path. They give us the steps. They bring the light to our experience of life. They show us the way. Remember that Christmas is about bringing the light to the darkness. Constance used the framework created by the tools of radical forgiveness to light the way to forgive her mother And in that, she set both of them free to shine their light more brightly. This next video features a bright light in my life, my fiance, Stuart. Stuart highlights here how opening to the Christ in our lives often means loosening our hold on the people and the things that we take as support in our lives.
My experience with radical transformation are my attachments. My attachments that have significantly hindered freely being able to do the things that life has been presenting itself to me. So where I live and what I do for work are two significant things that I've wanted to make shifts in my life. But how do you do that when you have attachments? Attachments that where you're really comfortable. It's very familiar. It's scary to change, and the fear of changing, all the effects that happens. Well, Scott and I had an opportunity to change where we live, and I had just enough trust in me to do it. So we did. Now we live in a place that speaks to both of our souls, and it's quite beautiful, actually. I love it. And right after we made that shift in where we live, this incredible career shift presented itself to me that I accepted. And oh my God, I gotta tell you, where we live and what I'm doing for work, I have got a tremendous amount of joy. So the lessons that I learned is if there's enough in you that you can, that resonates with your soul, just say yes. Do it. Have trust. Whatever happens, even if it's not exactly what you anticipated, you're still going to learn, and it's still going to make life juicy. Happy holidays.
I love that by Stuart. Make life juicy. Stuart's like the wise men. Comfy, really, in his life in Egypt. Comfortable with where he lived and the job that he had, but knowing there was something more, something calling him forward, something calling him to that next step, to a new home, to a new job. And he felt compelled to follow that star, like the wise men felt compelled to follow the star. Even though he didn't know where it would take him, the wise men didn't know what would be at the end of their journey. But life, when it calls us and we take steps in that direction, it unfolds in beautiful ways. We need to trust that guidance as Stuart did. Getting a new job and having a new home are big transformation things in our lives. And he did it beautifully by holding to that vision, holding to that star, being guided to the best version of his self. And in that, there's pure potential expressed, that Christ. He followed that light and is a brighter light himself as a result of it. This past Monday, we watched the Great Conjunction. Maybe some of you saw the planets, Jupiter and Saturn, come together, being in alignment with the sun. It was beautiful to watch it. It was fascinating, really, to think that we haven't seen anything like this in 800 years. Kevin and I were watching it from a friend's deck, and all of a sudden we could see it just fine. It was the first bright light in the dusk sky. But then a cloud rolled in, and it was hidden from us. You know, it can feel that way in our lives, like these clouds come in and hide the light that we are. But the truth is that light is always there, always shining, always ready to shine forth and bring forth our good in our lives when we let those clouds just move along and move on. It's so important to hold faith, especially during this year of 2020, knowing that guidance is available to us and our light is still there. Sometimes it's like a candle, and other times it's like a torch. We want to share with you now a song, Bring a Torch, by Voce at a Distance, which was filmed right here in our Columbine studio. Voce at a Distance.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bring a torch, Jeanette Isabella. Bring a torch, come swiftly and run. Christ is born, tell the folks of the village. Jesus is sleeping in his cradle. Oh, how beautiful is the mother road. How beautiful is the sun.
Hasten now.
The cloak of the veil
Thank you, Voce. That was beautiful. The Christmas story reminds us that life really bursts forth, blossoms from within. And yet the support and the encouragement of others is invaluable to us as we maneuver through this journey which is often challenging for us. It's why we value community so much here at Columbine. We see it as really being the glue that keeps us moving forward. However, the thought of opening up to others can be very vulnerable, can bring up a lot of fear in us. In this next video, Bonnie Livengood shares her own transformation around connecting and being vulnerable. And one of the benefits of transformation is that it always involves softening or dropping of our defenses and barriers so that we can connect at a deeper, more authentic level. And when we're willing to do the work, the resulting transformation lets our light shine. So let's listen to Bonnie.
I realized this year that my very sound reasons for never having fully participated in a small group program were just excuses based on fear, a rather long litany of fears that kept me isolated and separate when what my heart really craved was connection. And then I realized the group isn't about what I say, it's about what I can learn from everybody else. And that made all the difference. And I ended up making connections kind of by accident.
I love that video by Bonnie because she faced her fears, found her own inner light, and allowed her to find greater connection. We can do this too symbolically when we light our own candles within, our own light within. So we're going to move into our candle lighting part of our service now. There are 7 of us here who will be lighting candles. We invite you to light your own candle from home. And I want to share with you a poem written by Howard Truman in 1961. He was an author, philosopher, theologian, civil rights activist, and a mentor to Martin Luther King Jr. He says, "I will light candles this Christmas, candles of joy despite all sadness, candles of hope where despair keeps watch, candles of courage for fears ever present, candles of peace for tempest-tossed days, candles of grace to ease heavy burdens, candles of love to inspire my living, candles that will burn all year long." And so we'll take as our affirmation as we light our candle that you can say at home or to a loved one, whoever you're with, from this poem, "The Christ light inspires my living." Let's all say that together. The Christ light inspires my living. And so it is.
Holy Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly There is a candle in every soul, some brightly burning, some dark and cold. There is a spirit who brings a fire, ignites a candle, and makes his home. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the helpless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. We are a family, whose hearts are blazing. So let's raise our candles and light up the sky. Pray to the Spirit in the name of heaven. Make us a beacon in darkest times. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, deceived and poor. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the helpless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Go light your world. Take your candle and go light your
Say it again. I know. I'm waiting for you to leave your slide. Skedaddle. You know, when we do these services in person, we're always telling you to blow out your candle. Isn't it wonderful that you can leave your candle burning tonight? This is the time in our service when we're going to at least talk about taking an offering, talk about the importance of giving back. This has been a challenging year. Maybe more challenging for some than others, but still, we've been confronted this year. And it's been beautiful to see how in this community we have continued to give. Even in being the receiver of the mail here at Columbine, so many of you have dropped us notes. You've been very generous in your giving with the community. And even the coat drive that we are just finishing up, we have a whole lobby full, or I should say a whole entry full of bags of coats, of sweaters, of socks, of mittens, of hats, all out of your generosity. Generosity and our willingness to share of our abundance is a big part of opening to the flow of the Christ in our lives. And so we want to give you an opportunity to give. We want to say in advance, thank you for your generosity. We are so close to hitting our budget this year that it's in some ways a miraculous event for us. We have an offertory blessing we love to say together, and so please join me. God's love has always met and will always meet all my needs. I give freely, I receive abundantly, and I am grateful. To make your giving easy tonight, just use that text to give number at the bottom of the page with your cell phone. It will guide you through the process.
This has been quite a radical Christmas season. Normally, this would be a night where lots of bodies would be in here, lots of bodies would be on the stage getting ready to sing, but I just want to send such a shout out of love and appreciation for every single member of the virtual choir who attended 6 weeks of rehearsals, who went through all the personal stuff that had to go on in order to make recordings of themselves, and who yet came out with such a beautiful final presentation. I think that this song sums it up perfectly. This is Columbine Virtual Choir singing Seasons of Love from Rent. I love you all.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
How do you measure a year?
We can find love everywhere. When we measure our lives in the love that we've shared and the love that we are, the possibilities are endless. After this radical year of 2020, we certainly need a little Christmas love. So I invite us all to listen to that angel sitting on your shoulders, encouraging us to be the best version of ourselves as we head into this new year.
Janice, darling. Oh, no, we'll do it after that.
Do it afterwards.
All out the holly, put up the tree before my spirit falls again. Fill up the stocking, I may be rushing things, but deck the halls again now. For we need a little Christmas right this very minute. Candles in the window, carols at the spinet. Yes, we need a little Christmas right this very minute. It hasn't snowed a single flurry, but Santa dear, we're in a hurry, so climb down the chimney, put up the brightest string of lights I've ever seen. Lights of the fruitcake. It's time we hung some tinsel on that evergreen bough. On that evergreen bough. For I've grown a little leaner, grown a little colder, grown a little sadder, grown a little older, and I need a little angel sitting on my shoulder. We need a little Christmas now, for we need a little music, a little music, a little laughter, a little singing, ringing through the rafter, and we need a little snap that will make us happy ever after. We need a little Christmas now. Haul out the holly, put up the tinsel before my spirit falls again. Put up the stocking, slice up the fruitcake, let's deck the hall with that evergreen bough. For we need a little Christmas right this very minute. Candles in the window, carols at the spinet. For we need a little Christmas right this very minute.